For my final project, I wrote a focus on effects essay about the Enron accounting scandal. Enron was formed in 1985 following a merger of two natural gas suppliers, creating the United States' largest supplier of natural gas. In 1988, Enron hired Jeffrey Skilling as a consultant, and he subsequently came up with the idea of trading energy derivatives instead of simply being a supplier of the commodity. In 1990, Skilling was promoted. He became the head of the new financial division of Enron, where they focused mainly on which kinds of commodity derivatives they could start offering and becoming a world leader in those kinds of trades. Over the next 11 years, Enron became a darling of Wall Street, and their stock went on a meteoric rise, which raised some questions ultimately in 2001 as to how their liabilities could be so low while their profits were so high. And the federal government launched an investigation into Enron in October of 2001 and subsequently found that Enron was using off-book subsidiary companies to hide debt and failing business segments while using what's called mark-to-market accounting as a method of valuing their financial instruments that allows for revaluation every period, and the profits get booked on the income statement. When all was said and done, Enron had to restate their financial statements from 1997 to 2001, which resulted in a decrease in earnings of $591 million and an increase in liabilities of $648 million. As you can see here, Enron's stock was actually doing pretty well until about the time of the scandal, whereas they fell off, just very sharply until such a point as Enron declared bankruptcy and their stock was no longer traded on the stock market. Some of the regulatory fallout of the Enron scandal includes increased regulations from the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ regarding the independence and financial literacy of members of the board of directors. The SEC, after ratifying those regulations, tacked on its own about wanting to have a preventative style of communication with publicly traded companies so that at any point during the year, a company could approach the SEC and ask whether what they were doing was right with full immunity. And then the largest regulation that came as a consequence of the Enron scandal was the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, which, as we all should know, put public oversight onto the audit industry for the first time and basically legislated independence in auditors. Non-regulatory consequences included the dissolution of Enron's auditors, Arthur Andersen, who were then a Big Five firm, billions of dollars in investor losses, and fines and prison sentences for the two men who were CEO of Enron during this time period, Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling. So on the left, I have a headline and a front page from the Houston Chronicle after the Enron trials wrapped up, which is showing Kenneth Lay on the left and Jeffrey Skilling on the right after they both been found guilty. Lay was sentenced to 45 years in prison but had a heart attack and died before ever serving a day. And Skilling was sentenced to 24 years in prison, of which he served 12 and was subsequently released actually last year. And then on the right, we have President George W. Bush signing Sarbanes-Oxley into law. At Emmanuel College, we experience a broad range of schools of thought, and I think this is one of the things that has really helped me in identifying and defining my moral code and my ethical, at least my feelings on ethics. I think in a case such as the Enron case, the ethics and the morality kind of come right to the front. It's really the main point of this whole scandal is that had they acted morally and ethically, none of this would have even happened. One of the classes that I felt really helped me in developing these kinds of views was Introduction to Philosophy, which I took in the fall of 2017 at Emmanuel with Dr. Thomas Wall. This class really helped me explore my own definition of ethics and morality. It kind of gave me the terms to describe the way that I feel. I found that my view on the theory of obligation, which is essentially your true moral code, is utilitarianism, which is basically the greatest good for the greatest number of people is the moral decision, and that the highest value that I find people to pursue is pleasure, which makes me subscribe to the hedonist viewpoint. These are some of the philosophers that helped me to understand my worldview the best. On the left is Jeremy Bentham, who was a 1700s English philosopher. He's called the father of modern utilitarianism. On the right is Aristippus of Cyrene. He was a student of Socrates and kind of the first to publicly philosophize about the idea of hedonism. And in the center, we have Dr. Thomas Wall, who is the department chair for the philosophy department at Emmanuel College. It was my professor for Introduction to Philosophy and really helped me to explore points of view that I never even knew that I had. And thank you.